thinking a lot of the past. This is a season when we have memories that we cherish. And I was thinking about the Christmas when I was 8 years old. As that Christmas approached, there was a particular toy that I had my heart set on. Now, this was the height of the Apollo space program. We had not yet landed on the moon. It would be the following summer after that Christmas. But everything was about space. I remember as a child going to the Astrodome in Houston, and everything was about space, and it was named after space, and there was this toy that was on all the commercials called Johnny Astro. And I had to have Johnny Astro. Johnny Astro was this panel that looked like it could be the part of the cockpit of a spacecraft, and on the left side there was a throttle control, and there was a joystick in the middle. Now the joystick was actually connected mechanically to a fan, and the fan was designed so that it could hold a balloon in the column of air coming from the fan. And so you increase the speed of the fan with the throttle, and the balloon would go up, and it would come back down when you decrease the throttle. It was the coolest toy in the world because the balloons that came with it had printing on them, so they looked something like, if you used your imagination, a lunar landing module. And you even had little plastic legs that you could tape to the bottom of the balloon, and it could land on those legs. It was a cool toy, and my life would be complete if I had Johnny Astro. I remember going to visit Santa Claus in the town where I lived, the little town where I lived. The town always put up a special little house for Santa Claus on the square, and Santa Claus would visit, and you could go and visit Santa Claus. And I told him about Johnny Astro, and Christmas morning came, and I ran into the living room, and sure enough, there under the tree was Johnny Astro, all shiny and new, and I could not have been happier. My life was complete. It was fantastic. I was so happy for about 2 days. But then some of the balloons, popped, and some of the balloons wilted, and I accidentally stepped on the little legs that went on there and mashed them down, and after a few weeks, Johnny Astro was in the back of the closet somewhere. That's the way it is sometimes, isn't it, with our toys? And not just as children, but really lifelong, it's kind of that way. But I thought it would really make me happy. There are a lot of studies about happiness that have happened during the last decade or so. People have become very interested in happiness. Starting in 2012, there's been a happiness index that's part of the United Nations research program. They rate nations according to happiness. It's the World Happiness Report. And there's a World Happiness Day on March 20th, and that's when they release the report. And Norway is leading the way right now. They won in this year on March 20th. We came in number 19. We've got work to do here to get happier. But happiness is important. And there was another study I saw recently. It was actually published in 2015, but it said that happiness, increases and decreases over time, and different circumstances in our lives and all of that. But it said, this is what caught my attention. It said that people really achieve happiness on average when they turn 58. It was that specific, 58. Now that caught my attention because this next Friday I will achieve happiness. Isn't that fantastic? I look forward to it. But happiness, all of that, really has to do with what's going on around us. It's the toy under the tree, which is so exciting. Or it's the country in which we live, or the community in which we live, or the home in which we live. It's the circumstances of our lives. It's the job we have. It's all of those things. Our happiness depends on those things. But today is not Happiness Sunday. Today's Joy Sunday. It's Gaudete in Latin, which means rejoice. This is Gaudete Sunday. We light the rose candle today because that's a symbol of joy. We heard the words of Isaiah, who delivers a wonderful message to the people. The message is, you're not alone. You're not alone. God is with you. And so they rejoice like they're bringing in a big harvest because they've received this good news. Joy is not about what's going on around us. Joy is what's going on within us. And in the Greek, and Paul speaks of joy all the time, in the Greek, he uses the word chara, which is translated joy. Charis is the word for grace. See, the source of our joy is not what's going on around us. It is God's grace within us as God has come to us as a baby born in Bethlehem all those times ago. The good news of our faith is that joy comes from within because of the presence of God in our lives. One of the names for Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. So that's the source of our joy. We say it every Sunday. God is with us. We're not alone. Thanks be to God. And that joy goes deeper than our circumstances. Let me close with some words written by Anne Douglas Sedgwick. She was an author. She died in 1935. She had a very difficult illness toward the end of her life. In order for her to be able to breathe, she had to be lying down. In order to eat, she had to be sitting up. It was just an awful circumstance. But in the midst of that terrible circumstance, she wrote these words. She said, "Life is a gift, and life is mine, and it is beautiful to me. Life is difficult," she wrote, "but there is joy in knowing that I lie in the hand of God." She spoke of joy. And that joy didn't come from her circumstances. It came from knowing that she was lying in the hand of God. God was with her. When we celebrate the birth of Jesus, we celebrate God with us. We celebrate the grace of God. That inside of us that can bring joy, even when what's going on around us is not happy. Amen.